Now, I'll use any term you want. Okay. Because maybe that is a word that's triggering, and so let's not use that word.
Bill Maher has never been shy about calling out what he sees as woke nonsense. And this time, his targets were Whoopi Goldberg and Sunny Hostin. On national TV, he went straight after their arguments, breaking them down one by one. And honestly, he didn't hold back. It was a pretty intense takedown. But before we get into the details, if you enjoy quick commentary videos with full breakdowns, take 2 seconds to subscribe to the channel. Now let's get right back into it.
I thought about the conversations you and I have had, Whoopi, so many times about the co-opting of the word woke. And the fact that the right somehow has made it a dirty word. To be woke is a word that came out of the African-American community, and it was about acknowledging social justice inequities, acknowledging people's suffering. It is not a bad thing to care about other people, to care about the sufferings of others, and to act upon it. And so Whoopi will often tell me, well, I've never been asleep. Yeah. And that's how I feel. My parents, you know, they grew up in the civil rights movement. I grew up in the late 60s, 70s. I was always a part of it. And so I've never been asleep. And so it angers me when people are like, this woke stuff has got to go. That's telling me that you don't care about my lived experience. You don't care about the oppression of the LGBTQ community. You don't care about the oppression of the disabled. You don't care about the oppression of immigrants. You don't care about your fellow neighbor. And that is ugly. That is not Christian.
Did you catch what just happened? She didn't really challenge the policy or debate the politics. She went straight to emotion. If you don't like the word woke, suddenly that means you don't care about disabled people, immigrants, or even your own neighbors. In Sunny's argument, disagreeing with one cultural label somehow becomes a rejection of anyone who is struggling. And then came the part that really raised eyebrows, suggesting the opposition is and somehow not Christian. Critics argue that Sunny may believe she's defending marginalized communities, but instead, she turned a debate over language into a moral judgment against millions of people. That's where the conversation went from political disagreement to something much more personal.
You know what? I think we always have to remember that all things that make people uncomfortable would be called woke.
Yeah.
Everything. There have not been changes made in this country that were made without people being woke. We had to wake up and see that there's nothing wrong with who you want to love as long as you keep me in mind when I say, this is who I love. All of these things were challenged by people who said, oh, maybe they didn't say you're too woke, but they used whatever the hip word of the time was. This has always been, it will always be. This is what change does. It makes people uncomfortable. It scares people, makes people think that they are losing their place. You're not losing your place. No. What your place is telling you is that there are more people out for this gig, and you better be better than you were.
Yes.
It's not...
Equality can feel like oppression to those that have always been at the top of the ladder.
Regardless of where you fit, that fear doesn't work. It doesn't work for any of us. It doesn't work for any of us because it allows too many of us to be smushed by it. And if you're woke, good. You know, good. It'll make you a better person.
Then Whoopi Goldberg jumps in and takes the argument even further. She presents it as the same old story. Whenever people feel threatened or uncomfortable, they simply label something woke. In her view, the real issue isn't necessarily the policy itself. It's the fear of losing a position of power. Sunny adds the line that seems to sum up their entire argument: equality can feel like oppression when you're used to being on top. But for many Americans watching at home, that message didn't sound inspiring. It sounded dismissive. Millions of working families are struggling with rent, rising prices, and wages that haven't kept up for years. Suggesting that these people are somehow sitting comfortably at the top of the ladder can feel completely disconnected from reality. Critics argue that Whoopi was trying to make a broader point about privilege in history. But instead, she appeared to brush aside real economic frustration by reducing it to fear of losing status. And that's not much of an argument. For some viewers, it may have sounded like the exact kind of attitude that pushes people away, and by the time Bill Maher entered the conversation, the room was already losing patience.
I had a different question, but it struck me that in the first segment you used the term woke, and you said that woke is what was sort of ruining everything. And I know that you're
no, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected.
Yeah.
So the term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and so I was surprised to hear you use the term, because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But words
and so
migrate.
why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great thing. Alert to injustice, who's not for that? But words do migrate. Now, I'll use any term you want.
Okay.
Because maybe that is a word that's triggering, and so let's not use that word. I don't know, want to call it the super far left? But don't tell me the left
Or maybe the super far right.
Well, he's talking about the left. Well, they're
okay,
not woke.
but we talked about that. I mean, I think we agree about the danger of the super far right, and I can't say it enough. I think they're the bigger threat. But don't tell me that the left hasn't changed.
And now Maher refuses to play along. He calmly clarifies that he never said woke was ruining everything. His point was that it helped explain why voters push back. Big difference. Sunny tries to focus on the word itself, but Maher doesn't take the bait. He reminds her that language changes and even offers a simple solution: drop the word. Call it the far left if you want. Just don't pretend the left hasn't shifted. Then Sunny immediately brings up the far right, instead of addressing his point. Critics say she was balancing the debate. Maher was asking for self-reflection, but she simply turned the mirror around, and that's exactly why the argument went nowhere.
Being woke is like a magic moral time machine where you judge everybody against what you imagine you would have done in 1066, and you always win. Presentism. Yeah, this professor is right. It's just a way to congratulate yourself about being better than George Washington because you have a friend and he didn't.
And then Maher delivers his biggest point. He describes woke thinking as a moral time machine, judging people from the past by today's standards while assuming we'd always be the heroes. He calls it presentism, the idea that modern people can automatically claim the moral high ground over figures from history. Critics say Maher is mocking real progress, but his argument is simpler. If you judge every generation by today's standards, you can always make yourself look superior. And this goes beyond one TV debate. Polling shows many Americans believe the Democratic Party has moved too far left, while figures like James Carville and Jonathan Haidt have also warned about the political cost of wokeness. Maher's bigger message is clear. When a movement stops questioning itself, voters eventually notice.
The new series Star Trek Starfleet Academy premiered just last week, and it already has two outspoken critics, Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller and the world's richest man, Elon Musk. They're complaining that the show has gone woke. As a Starfleet Academy member, please also allow me to respond. If you've never been asleep, you can't be woke. See, this was a show that was created with the idea that people from other planets would come and we would all find a way to exist together. This was Gene's idea. This was his dream. And when you watch Star Trek, that's what it shows you. Now, this is a show that has lots of aliens in it. They were complaining.
Didn't Captain Kirk kiss one of them?
No, she was not in it. No. Please allow me to help.
And then Whoopi shifts to one of the era's biggest debates, whether Star Trek has gone too woke. She defends the newer show by pointing back to Gene Roddenberry's original vision: different worlds, different people, and finding a way to coexist. To Whoopi, that's exactly what Star Trek has always been about. But critics say that's not the real issue. They argue the problem isn't diversity. Star Trek has celebrated diversity for decades. The complaint is about the messaging, the heavy-handed lectures, and dialogue that can feel more like a college seminar than a story. For some viewers, it's not about who is on screen. It's about whether the story comes first.
No, here's the point. Why are you concentrating on a television show when people are being when people are going hungry, when farmers are losing their farms, kids can't get meals at school? Why are you paying attention to this?
To distract from the...
Well, to distract from everything. Please, do your job,
And then comes the pivot that critics say proves Maher's point. Whoopi asks why anyone is focused on a TV show when people are facing violence, hunger, struggling farms, and kids going without proper meals. Maher sees that as the bigger issue. Critics argue that after years of saying movies, shows, and cultural moments matter, dismissing the conversation as unimportant when the criticism goes the other way feels inconsistent. Whoopi may have simply been trying to shift attention toward real-world problems, but Maher's response is clear. If culture matters when it supports your side, it has to matter when your side gets challenged too.
Are you at all concerned about the innocent civilians that have been collectively punished and largely children and women? And are you at all concerned about the fact that the International Criminal Court just today issued a subpoena for Bibi Netanyahu?
Well, that's ridiculous, but it's a war.
Why?
It's a war because it's a war, and and they're defending themselves. Now, this is a war. Do you think Hamas needs to be destroyed? This is the question.
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
So how can we get that with a ceasefire?
All right, so Hamas needs to be destroyed because they are a organization who say openly that they want to commit on the Jewish people, on the state of Israel. That's what from the river to the sea means, okay? And they say it very openly. They said, we did this attack. They've Israel 5 times. They've started 5 wars since they were given that land back. They could have chosen to turn that place into any place they wanted to, and they took a lot of money that they took from the international community and they spent it on and building tunnels. So if they need to be destroyed, how do we do that? It's a war. I don't know how to do that, and you don't know how to do that. I assume the Israeli... Of course, everybody is, but that's what happens in a war. Here's a way to stop that. Stop Israel.
Then the debate takes an even bigger turn. Sunny shifts from TV to the Israel-Hamas conflict and asks Maher to condemn Israel over civilian suffering. Maher refuses to simplify the issue. He argues that Hamas openly calls for Israel's destruction and says the group's actions have helped fuel the conflict. Critics say Maher was too harsh on civilian suffering, while supporters say he was simply pointing to the larger context. And that brings us back to the bigger argument. Sunny defended the word woke as a moral position. Whoopi defended it as progress. Maher argued that the label has become more divisive than useful. Maybe one TV segment doesn't define an entire political movement, but it does raise a bigger question. Can the left rebuild trust without acknowledging why so many voters have walked away? What do you think? Is woke now impossible to defend with ordinary voters? Share your thoughts in the comments, like the video, and subscribe for more commentary.